Darren, the game is so cruel at times. I mean, you go off the back of them that first 20 minutes, especially. I mean, it was all one-way traffic, wasn't it?
I couldn't be happy with the start, with all the stuff we'd worked on. The intensity of our game was really good. I felt the first 30 minutes really good. First half we were dominant, really. Apart from maybe the last 5 minutes we got a little bit sloppy. Needed to score. That was a pivotal part for the game, the first third. We needed to score with opportunities. I think he had a couple of good shots. And just said at half time, look, you've got to go up another level now. I like it in the second half when we're shooting towards that end. Said to them, make sure you're disciplined and we don't get done in the counter-attack. The first goal's an awful goal to give away. Really, really poor. But look, Neil, and I've just said to my players, it wasn't a day, I'm not going to go in and rant and rave at them today because I don't think that was right. It's probably a game that sums the season up. You know, poor goals given away and not enough quality to score goals at the other end.
You were playing with one up front, Luke James, but you know, for those that don't know football very well, it doesn't really work like that. It's not one up front, is it? It's effectively three. And you expect your two men playing off the striker to push forward, and I suppose that was lacking a little bit today, was it?
No, I felt they did it well at times. We'd worked on it all week. I like the formation. I like it. It's definitely not a one up front. It's a 4-2-3-1. It's virtually four really, and the three behind Luke have got freedom to go and play whatever they want. And it took them a long time to work it out. I mean, Colchester, and I felt the opening period we did it really well. Him was getting space. Joe was. Marcus was. We just couldn't score, and we know that. Generally when we score first, we've won 90% of our games, and we spoke about that in the week. But it just, whether it's a lack of quality or what, but we just can't seem to get the ball in the net at the moment.
When the first goal came, how frustrated were you with it? Because I mean, it came straight from their keeper, didn't it?
It's a terrible goal. We've watched it back. The keeper's thrown it, but we've got 6 defenders against 4, and we haven't touched the ball. We need to go out against, close the ball down. We've dropped off too early, allowing them to get to the edge of our box, and it's as simple as goals. Freddie Sears will score. He doesn't even have to work hard for it. It's a cross, finish, goal. So that obviously turned the game. It gives them something to hang on to. And then we huffed and puffed and had a couple of good chances, and then of course to concede the second, you know, it was more or less game over.
Yeah, sort of took the wind out of our sails, didn't it? Very much so.
Yeah, it did, and that's why it's really important when you're getting control, especially at home, and you're in the ascendancy and you're dominant as we were. If you get the goal, then all of a sudden the game opens up the other way where they're chasing it, and obviously it suits some of our players. But the fact that they got to 0-0 at half time, they would have been delighted with that, and they probably would have been sat there saying, look, we just hit them on the counter, and that's how it worked. But it does change games. They sat in deep and we couldn't find a way of breaking them down. But and it's a really disappointing day, and again, you know, we're losing too many games.
It could have been so different, couldn't it? I mean, Joe Newell had a fantastic opportunity, and I suppose you know, looking at it from the outside, it was probably harder to miss it than it was to score it.
Yeah, he's got to score. I mean, that chance, the chance for Luke James at 1-0 as well, he's got to score. We have to score. We're not in a position where we can afford to miss those chances, you know. And that was a frustrating thing, and it has been for a while now. We have to find a way of turning our chances into goals, because at the moment, every time other teams attack, whether that's against a run of play or whatever, the ball seems to be going in the net.
This is off the back of a week that you've been away together as a unit. I suppose that, you know, frustrates you even more that you've had that time together. You've had that time to get into the players what you want to get into them, and again, it's not been implemented the way you want it to be.
No, and the week was a really good week. You know, the chairman just felt it was the right thing for the club to do, or the team to do, and we were all out there, and it was a great week, and it was a very good idea, and I did feel that it felt got a real freshness into us. I don't mean physically, but as mentally more than anything, and we had time to take stock, and I do believe things happen for a reason. I said to the lads before the game and the team talk, I said, look, I think it's maybe worked out in our favour. We're out the cup, we've had that week away, and this is the start of another season for us. It really did feel like that, and I think they took that into the game. But we just needed to go, and I'm not making excuses. The result's nowhere near good enough against a team that is below us, and I think they've only won 1 in 14 like ourselves or something. So it's not normal for us to be losing games to teams like that at home.
Yeah, it's 1 in 11 for us at the moment. I mean, what do you do next as a manager for this group of players? What do you do next to? I mean, you've explored almost every avenue, haven't you? What do you do next?
Listen, I've got to keep persevering. I've got to explore other avenues. I do like this, that we've played different systems and we've chopped and changed, one because of injury and all the rest of it, mainly because of injury. And I feel that the formation we played there today is a good one. I think it gets most creative players in the team. I'm hoping John Taylor will be available for next Saturday. I think it will be another boost for us. But I just have to keep persevering. You know, look, it's everyone's pointing the finger. You know, and the chairman, I know, understandably, the fans are putting him under a lot of pressure, but he's a strong guy. And I suppose it's sort of, you know, our relationship as a manager and chairman, this is standing that sort of test at the moment. And there's a lot to be said for that. And listen, people will say, well, you're the manager, you don't want to get sacked. Of course I don't. Absolutely not. And I'm up for the battle ahead, but I've just got to keep going with the players. You know, it's important that they'll be looking at me now, but we've just got to keep going, and hopefully we get that break. We need a win. We need to stop the rot. We need to make sure we hang on in there to 6th place, and hopefully that win gives us the extra confidence. But I don't think you've seen a team that chucked it or wasn't playing with a belief that they thought they could win the game or had an idea what we worked on. You've seen all them things ingrained in the game today, but just we're not in a position where you can say some of the performance was good, but we got beat. We're just not in that position at the moment. How
does it make you feel? I mean, you know, knowing that some fans out there, and it's important to stress, not all fans, but some fans out there are pointing the finger at you, are calling for your head. How does that make you feel personally?
It doesn't make you feel good, you know, and sometimes you can't get a connection with a club. You know, I'm depressed, and it's, you know, it's just not going to work, whatever, and you just can't get that bond. And a lot of managers would say the same. Well, this club's different. You know, I've been here 8-9 years now, and I have got a great relationship with them. I feel I do, but at the moment, they're pointing the finger at me because they're on the games I've been on. You know, and they're quite right. I have to take that responsibility. I may come across as quite calm, and maybe it can be called arrogant, but I don't feel that way. I'm inside hurting. This is hurting me, you know, big time, because this is a club I'm very fond of, and I would never want to leave the club like this, considering what's gone on before.
And that's very much important to remember, isn't it? I mean, you know, you don't just see this as a football club. I mean, you've built your career up here. You've had massive success here. The club means something to you. You love the football club.
It does, and look, the reason you know, after we obviously lost the playoffs, I had an honest conversation with the chairman, and I wanted to build a lot of things that will be still here a long time I've gone, and that's not, you know, that doesn't mean it keeps you in a job, but at the end of the day I can only do my job. I've had another conversation with the chairman. It was a very one-on-one open chat, and I feel for him as well, because he's getting put under a lot of pressure, and you know, and no matter what happens in the future, he's a good chairman. Resignation-wise,
that wouldn't come with it?
Never.
And in regards to, I mean, when you look at people that have got experience to fall back on, I mean, I know you're very much your own man, but I mean, to have like your dad in the background, I mean, have you spoke to him about your current circumstance, because he's been through it himself, obviously?
There's other managers that have gone through it.
Yeah.
You know, there's been good examples of it this season. You know, you look at Brendan Rodgers, who was outstanding manager of the year last year, and he's gone through it. And
are you able to touch on that experience?
Yeah,
there?
you look at Arsene Wenger, who's, you know, been at that club for, you know, the longevity he's had at Arsenal. There's many examples of it where what I've got to do personally, I've got to stick to my beliefs without it, you know, going overboard. I've got to try and keep the belief that I can get the team winning games again. That's important. I can't lose that. And again, it may come across as an arrogant, but I've got no choice, because if I lose that, the players will see it, and they know that I'm a strong character, and they know I've got that belief in them, and I keep reminding them of it. But the simple fact in football or any other job, you can't keep losing.
Well, it's a fickle sport, isn't it? It's a fickle game. I mean, as you said there with Arsene Wenger, you know what he's achieved at Arsenal and the longevity that he's been there. Fans turn.
Yeah, quickly. They do, but then again, it's not always going to be. It's not a simple football where you're going to continue winning and winning and winning. It doesn't work that way. You know, there's always periods where you go through a bad spell. Even last year, people called it a really bad season. The chairman did, yeah, because we wanted to get promoted, but we won the cup and we got in the playoffs. You know, and this season it's not gone as planned, but that's where you've got to stay strong. And one thing we're showing as a football club, which as a club we have to take credit for, we're sticking together.
Finally, second half, you were up in the stands. Didn't see
Yeah.
you down the touchline. Reason?
The referee didn't want me to come back down to the touchline.